Welcome to this third Climate Pollinator webinar. And we are delighted that you have all joined us for this time. My name is Doug Graber Neufeld. I'm the chair of the Creation Care Task Force of Mennonite World Conference. And this webinar is a collaboration between Mennonite World Conference and the Anabaptist Climate Collaborative, which you'll hear about in a minute. The Creation Care Task Force has a representative from each of the Mennonite World Conference regions. And at this time, I'll introduce David Nussbaumer, who will be moderating the webinar once our presenters start. David lives in France and is the director of Rosa's Ecological Study Center in France. These stories originated in a survey project of the task force and inspired ACC to start the Climate Pollinator project. So I'm happy to also introduce Sierra Ross-Ricker, who skillfully committed herself to the project of crafting this set of stories about the church and climate. And in a bit, she will explain more about that project. I'll mention several logistical items to pay attention to. We know that people will have questions about the stories. There will be time after the presentations to ask questions. So please save those questions to the end. If you are speaking, it's most helpful if you don't speak too quickly, as this is being translated. If you're able and comfortable with it, we do invite you to consider turning on your cameras. At the same time, we recognize that's not possible for everyone. And please be aware that we are recording the webinar and it's being live streamed on Facebook. So comments and images from the hour are publicly available. And we are using Discord as an online platform for continuing these conversations. You'll see in the chat box information on how to join it. Carla Braun and Prashit Rao are both here handling many of the logistical and technical details of this webinar. Thanks to them. I want to personally thank the 4 presenters we have today. We are truly blessed by your presence and your stories, and really appreciate taking some time, excuse me, to share your thoughts. So I think before Sierra starts, I want to introduce Doug Kaufman, if Doug is here. Just look, if he's here, we'll jump in a minute. If not, maybe a little later. He is the director of the Anabaptist Climate Collaborative and has many years of experience engaging with the church in creation care. And he, at some point here, will say a few words about ACC. I don't see him, but Doug, if you are here, go ahead and jump in. If not, I'll invite Sierra to take it away.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Sierra Ross-Ricker, and as you know by now, I wrote the Climate Pollinator article series for ACC last spring. The Climate Pollinator is a collection of 48 short articles which were originally published as a daily Lenten reading and later compiled into a book, which you can find on the ACC website. The stories focus on the questions how are Anabaptists around the world experiencing climate change, and what are they doing to respond? In this era of climate crisis, we as the Anabaptist Church must discern our response. Whether we choose to consciously or not, we are shaping that response each day by the ways that we live, work, and worship. Responding to climate change with faith and integrity requires a lot of imagination, creativity, and hard work, as those of you who are engaged in this work know. We named this project the Climate Pollinator because we think that by sharing stories, we can pollinate each other with new ideas, inspiration, and motivation to take action in our communities. Today, we'll be hearing from 4 members of 3 Mennonite congregations in Holland and Germany. I will introduce each presenter before they speak. But first, I will say a little bit more about the region that we're focusing on, Europe. In the interviews that I did with Anabaptists in Europe, many told me that they have yet to experience the effects from climate change felt by people in other places. While I don't doubt their personal experiences, I did find it interesting to read in a report by the World Meteorological Organization that Europe is the world's fastest warming continent, up an average of 2.3 degrees Celsius last year from pre-industrial temperatures. Glacial melt, sea level rise, increases in ocean temperatures, heat waves, wildfires. These are just some of the effects climate change is having on this continent. But for now, economic prosperity, robust social systems, and new innovative technologies are able to buffer many from its immediate effects. The report, published in June of this year, highlighted the European Union's emphasis on reducing greenhouse gas emissions by transitioning to clean energy. For the first time last year, more electricity in the European Union was produced with wind and solar than with fossil fuels, and the Union's goal is to reach carbon neutrality by 2050. The broader cultural emphasis around green energy and technology influences Anabaptist churches in Germany and Holland. Today, we'll hear what specific steps 3 churches are taking to be good stewards of the environment.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, depending on when you are on this planet. Doug, has the other Doug joined us, Doug Kaufman? Does he want to say a word now, or should we go ahead?
I think go ahead, David. I don't see him yet. Maybe at the end we can give him some time if he joins.
Okay. So we will now hear from 4 speakers. And Sierra, I think you can introduce our first speaker, Joost Kassler from Holland.
Joost Kassler from the Arboretum Church in Holland will be our first speaker today. Joost has a background in ecology and works as a consultant making value chains for products like coffee, tea, and cocoa, more socially and environmentally sustainable. He chairs his church's board and has been leading sustainability initiatives in the congregation for over 10 years. Joost will tell us about Holland's Green Church Network, of which his church is a member, and how his congregation is incorporating sustainability and creation care into its operations and belief system.
Thank you very much, Sierra, for this nice introduction. And happy to be able to tell you all about our journey on becoming a green church and the next steps. It all started in 2007 when, with a fellow Mennonite member in our congregation, we took the initiative to organize a Sunday sermon around principles of the Earth Charter, which is the UN-supported initiative, because we found that it was important that our church would also pay more attention to earth care sustainability in the world. So we presented some of the Earth Charter principles and found that there are many overlaps actually with Christian and Mennonite principles of solidarity, nonviolence, and responsibility. We repeated this 3 more times during a period of 2 years, each time taking other Earth Charter principles and looking how we can apply these in our congregation. At the same time, the initiative of green churches in the Netherlands was taken and started, and they provided a checklist to verify what should be done, what can be done in your congregation to become a green church. This enabled us to take a number of decisions, like serving fair trade coffee, tea, and sugar, investing in isolation of the building, shifting to an energy provider of renewable energy, and shifting our bank account to, well, a more responsible bank, and not buying any products that are not biological or chemical free. So this was widely communicated in our congregation, and in 2012 we became one of the first green churches in the Netherlands. And I believe Mariska from Aalsmeer will tell more about being a green church. But in our church, when having reached this stage, we started to think about other responsibilities. We believe every Dutch citizen, whether religious or not, will by now know about practices that are more environmentally friendly, such as the ones just mentioned, and could be expected to apply these if you have the means to do so. However, we see in the Netherlands that the change in practical behavior towards more sustainable social, environmental, sustainable practices is still very meager. For example, only 3% of the Dutch population buys biological products, and even less buys fair trade products. And this is in sharp contrast with the fact that we are actually the 4th richest country in the world. So you would expect many more people to buy in a responsible and to behave in a responsible way. We believe this lack of responsibility in behavior is because many Dutch citizens are missing the inner motivation and deeper conviction that creation care is really important. It's important because climate change is a severe threat to future generations and fellow citizens elsewhere in the world. And we believe religion in general, and our Mennonite church in particular, has the responsibility and ability to raise awareness and address deeper convictions and belief systems that are at the basis of our unsustainable behavior. Increasingly, we read that a change in belief systems is recognized for human beings to start behaving more sustainably and caring for the earth. More specifically, this is about the change from a belief in continuous economic growth and capitalist development using the earth in a utilitarian way towards development that is based on gentle use of the earth and setting clear boundaries and solidarity with fellow citizens. So, apart from the concrete practices that I mentioned before, in our congregation, creation care has now become a principle, not a separate theme, but it is mainstreamed in our way of doing things. For example, in every Sunday sermon, we start by saying, as a sign of our connection with God, with each other, with the earth and all its living inhabitants, we open the Bible and lighten the candles. Not only in the Sunday sermons, but also in our workshops, meetings, and daily life, we emphasize principles like solidarity, wisdom, and sustainability, and promote practices such as mindfulness, nature walks, connectedness with each other, and respect of living creatures. We serve vegetarian foods, we promote local and biological products, and we had an exposition of art that is based on reuse of waste products. And very importantly, we keep each other alert and hopeful because the context in which we are now living is becoming increasingly harsh. Maybe you have also heard about the last elections in the Netherlands. Well, this has shown again that the majority of people in the Netherlands are not very concerned about climate change, unfortunately. With Joanna Macy, we see the current climate crisis also as a need for the Great Awakening, and we want to be part of this movement. But how can we support each other to awaken and engage into concrete action? We were inspired by the German sociologist Hartmut Rosa, who has introduced the concept of resonance. Resonance is a sensation of being connected with another source at another level than our rational thinking. His statement is that people need resonance to feel connected and transform to caring about other living creatures and the earth, and not only to think about mankind. This requires one to get out of your mode of rational thinking and fear for the unknown, and by contrast, also celebrate life and creation. This can be triggered by dancing, singing, meditation, or walking in nature, which in our congregation we all start to promote and do together. All of this is not so easy to capture in words. I made the following poem, which is hanging in our church and which reflects our vision on how we look at creation care. It runs as follows. I greet the sun, source of light and warmth. I feel the earth in which I am rooted. I greet the clouds, carriers of water. At night, I look for darkness, to hover breathless in an endless space of stars. I open myself for being connected with an unknown source that created all life. I greet my loved ones, here and now travel companions, and I think of fellow people elsewhere in the world, with whom I am, often without knowing it, connected, through my food, my clothing, my use of this earth. I greet the red beach, the birds, the dog, the flowers, and the bees. They are also fellow travelers every day. They help me remind who I am. I am a human being, Homo sapiens, experiment of the evolution. No other living creature is gifted with so much brains. I feel my responsibility to make the best of it with wisdom and love for God's creation. Thank you. This is what I wanted to tell about how we look at God's creation in our congregation and how we try to struggle with climate change and the movement in the Netherlands towards right-wing and not caring, not seeing climate change as a priority. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joost, for sharing about everything that your church is doing, even in the midst of an unfavorable context. Thank you for sharing about resonance. Really resonated with me. Sorry for the pun. And thank you also for sharing this beautiful poem with us. Now, Sierra, will you please introduce the two next speakers from Germany? Thank you, Sarah.
Our next two speakers, Jolene, Wehner, and Johannes Harder, come to us from Enkenbach Mennonite Church in Germany. If you don't remember their names from the Climate Pollinator articles, that's because they weren't originally interviewed for the series. Still, you may remember reading about their congregation in two stories, one about a run raising money for wells in Benin, and one about the secondhand shop that their church runs. Jolene who will be speaking today is a nurse who works in neurology, and Johannes is a software engineer. They're both members of their church's congregational development team, which planned a year-long creation care theme in 2021. This morning, they'll share with us about what that theme entailed.
Thank you, Sierra. Our congregation here in Enkenbach, which is about 1 hour south of Frankfurt, is now nearly 70 years old, which is fairly young for a German Mennonite congregation. It was founded as a congregation for refugees that had fled from nowadays Poland, what was West Prussia, after the Second World War. So the oldest members of our congregation have this refugee experience, and that also affects their lifestyle, which we'll be getting to later. We here in Germany do notice the warming temperatures. As you said earlier, Sierra, our summers are getting warmer. The seasons are drier. For those who raise vegetable gardens, we notice that we need to do more irrigating. So we do notice the differences, but they do not impact our lives dramatically. We are aware, though, that our lifestyle, including our continued heavy dependence on fossil fuels, has contributed greatly to climate change, and that this climate change disproportionately affects those living in the global south. We are also aware of our financially privileged position and believe that we are responsible to take action, in response to climate change. I'm going to let Johannes take over.
Yeah, I want to talk now a little bit about the beginnings of the creation care initiatives in our congregation. So as mentioned already by Jolene, our congregation was founded mostly by refugees after the Second World War, and with their experience during their flight from West Prussia to the western part of Germany, they experienced what it means not to have enough to eat, and also shortage of everything. And this experience is still with them, and from this experience they have still quite a simple lifestyle, which is beneficial for the environment also. But especially also younger people are now very committed to save our planet with different actions. Already in 1994, the church bylaws were changed, so from our congregation, to include the following sentence. Our congregation sees itself, along with Christians around the world, obliged to advocate for peace, justice, and the integrity of God's creation. So since then, and also before, I think, the topic of creation care was taken up many times in various activities and events. So we had presentations by experts, discussions in our community, church services with special main focus on environmental topics. In 2009, we opened as a congregation a second-hand store in the village. So as already mentioned by Sierra, this is also mentioned in a story which was shared on your website. This is also providing a valuable contribution to our efforts for creation care, because the clothes and other things that are not used anymore by the owner is donated to us, and we can sell it again to people which can use it then further. This helps us to save resources for new which were otherwise used for these new items. Beside this, it helps also the people in our village to buy less expensive stuff. And also with the revenue of the store, we are supporting projects in Ethiopia. So it has three positive aspects: supporting people in Ethiopia, supporting people in Germany, in Enkenbach, and also saving resources. Additionally, we had in 2021 a theme year about the creation care, and Jolene will tell now a few more details about it.
In the creation care theme year, we started out in the Lenten season with a climate fast. So each week we had a special focus, whether it was on having clean water or renewable energy, our food choices. It gave us time to, first of all, have a biblical meditation about what is our motivation for changing our lifestyles. And secondly, it gave us a chance to actually try out making changes in our lives, at least for a limited time period. What is it like to eat vegetarian? What is it like to take my bicycle to work instead of driving the car? And just having that initial action in a shortened time period, it was a motivation for some of us to make some lifestyle changes. So that Lenten season was a pretty intense time for us. We went on further. There were quite a few activities, but one of them, we have quite a few folks that actually enjoy running as a way to connect with nature and get their exercise here. And someone requested, how about if we do a fundraising run so that we can get sponsors, and the money that we raise during this run, we would like to contribute it to another part of the world where they're more deeply affected, immediately affected by climate change. So we connected with our Mennonite Relief and Development Agency here in Germany, which partners with a partner organization, La Casa Grande in Benin in West Africa, in order to help finance wells for drinking water and toilets, etc. So that was a way for us to connect and actually have faces connected to who is affected. How can we tangibly contribute more of our resources to assisting people that are affected by climate change? We have a couple of pictures that we'll be showing later.
Good. Yeah, I'm coming now, or I want to focus now on the point how we continue and where we are currently. So further on, also in sermons, the theological base for the creation care is laid, and we are seeing this also as our task to continue here. As we were seeing that eating meat is causing a lot of the environmental issues, we are in discussions to reduce it on our common meals. So currently, much more vegetarian alternatives are provided than in earlier days. Single people also inside the congregation are committed to reduce food waste. So we have now several opportunities to get food from stores and other organizations, which we would throw away if we would not take it. So often the food is still in a very good condition, and many people also outside of the congregation are using it. One additional example, so our men's group in the congregation had just 2 weeks ago a wine tasting event with ecological produced wines. It was very informative to see what happens behind the scenes to produce such goods, and that it makes an impact when we buy ecological products. We have not really an agenda here how to continue with creation care, but from time to time we are starting new initiatives, and this is also supported by the congregation. So therefore, we are also very interested in the experience of other congregations, like we are shared today. So like we heard before and here afterwards. So it's also very interesting for us to hear about these green churches, this label. Yeah, we are looking forward to go this way, and yeah, thanks for listening, and I'm handing back to Sierra.
Thank you very much, Jolene and Johannes. Sorry, Sarah. I just want to thank speakers from Germany. Thank you very much for sharing how your church has used its history. I think it's really interesting to hear how this refugee experience has led you to care not only for non-human creation, but also for human creation, linking the two together and partnering with 2 countries from the global south. So thank you for sharing that. And now, Sierra, you can introduce our last speaker for today, please.
Our final speaker today, Mariska the Graaf, is joining us from Holland again, where she is a member of the Mennonite congregation of Aalsmeer. Mariska was also not originally interviewed for the Climate Pollinator, but her church, which she will be sharing about, was featured. Before retiring, Mariska worked in greenhouse horticulture, and she now volunteers for many different initiatives, including an ecumenical working group in Aalsmeer and the Flower Art Museum. Mariska helped start her congregation's Sustainability Committee in 2014, when the church joined the Green Church Network that Joost spoke about. She will share about some of the steps that her congregation has taken towards sustainability over the last decade.
Thank you, Sierra. Well, today is a special day. It's the final day of COP28 in Dubai. And we all hope for big changes and clear intentions and agreements between governments to reduce climate change and find solutions for the big problems we cope. Although it feels that our contribution as a person and as a Mennonite congregation is small, every step counts. I'd like to tell you about the sustainability efforts of our Mennonite community. Our local congregations consists of about 330 members and dedicated friends together. In 2010, a sustainability committee was started on request of our church council. And the first challenge was to analyze the energy consumption of the church and calculating its footprint to find out what measures could contribute most to reducing the footprint and saving energy and electricity. The steps we made, well, the heating system was improved and we tried to insulate windows, doors, heating pipes as much as possible. But as our building is 100 years old and a national monument, we had to take into account that not everything could be insulated and optimal. Other steps we took was switching to renewable energy sources, waste separation, serving fair trade, coffee, tea, sugar, and later on we replaced lighting by LED lamps. So step by step, we reduced our energy consumption and carbon footprint. In 2011, we adopted a declaration of intent that sustainability has a high priority in decisions made by our council and the parish meeting. And that resulted, among others, in turning financial investments into a green financial bank. So that was very important that sustainability was one of the main topics we made decisions in our congregation. First, the first few years we only had in mind to lower the energy consumption of our building itself. But then in 2013, we changed our course more into awareness of the fellow members, of the community members. And since then, we organize readings and education events, as well as spiritual as practical. Excursions, for instance, bicycle tours to regional projects, publishing newsletters with all kinds of sustainability tips, And our church is located in the center of a village among shops. But we have a small garden with native flowers, which attracts a lot of insects. So we are a little oasis in the village. In 2014, we connected to the Dutch Green Church Network. Joost told about it. And it's a countrywide network of churches of all denominations. Even mosques are attending. And at the time, it counted only 100 churches in 2014, and nowadays more than 400. So it's increasing a lot, and we are inspiring new churches to connect. And what we said, you become a green church voluntarily, but it's not without obligation. So we all continue on the path of sustainability. The special green church sign on the wall at the entrance of the church, next to our Fairtrade church sign, helps us remind us of that. And green churches is not a quality mark, and it's not a committee that checks whether we are doing right or wrong. No, it's a movement of churches and people who take a different path and shape together to be sustainable, to be a sustainable, fair, and just community. And the connected churches are only asked to take a new step in sustainability in their community every year. We celebrated the membership in a green service, for example. And since then, we do that every year with personal contribution of the committee members and the minister. And we think it necessary for success that the minister, as well as the council, support and stimulate the sustainability initiatives of the church members. I've attended various Green Church Network events since then, days of exchange of ideas and inspiration, both practical and spiritual, excursions to other green churches, attending and giving workshops. I learned from these days that small steps are okay. Don't let you discourage. Celebrate every step you make in your community. And the most recent steps are starting a sustainability circle with various topics on climate change and sustainability, and starting a WhatsApp group to exchange ideas and organizing challenges. So we also joined some stages of the climate marches to Paris and Glasgow, and the recent climate marches in Amsterdam. And we did that with a group of fellow members. And last but not least, we are glad that the Dutch government, provincial as well as local, are more willing to accept installation of solar panels on monumental buildings, such as our beautiful church, as this was not possible until now. This will help us to become energy neutral as a church. But moreover, we'd like to start a cooperative for church members and households in the vicinity of our church to share the solar yeast, a real challenge. And I'm proud of the enthusiastic committee of our church. That's what I wanted to share with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mariska. It was very interesting to hear about the diverse ways your church is engaging. And thank you for reminding us that even if the problem seems really the problem of the governments and the people talking about at the COP28, we also have a part to play, and no effort is too small. Thank you very much. I think sorry for the bad pronunciation, but Doug Kaufman has joined us. Other Doug Neufeld, grab Neufeld. Do you want to introduce him, maybe?
Yes, so Doug Kaufman is here. For those that weren't on right away at the start, I had mentioned Doug Kaufman is director of the Anabaptist Climate Collaborative, who Mennonite World Conference is partnering with on this project. So I'd like to give Doug just a few moments to say a few words. And I guess, Doug, you have the privilege of even starting out a discussion here or asking a question, I guess, as we move into that time. But Doug, thanks for joining, and go ahead.
Yes, thank you, other Doug, and I'm glad to be here. And I'm joining you from Goshen, Indiana, part of the well-watered Great Lakes region of the United States. And sorry I'm late. I was mixed up about the daylight savings time. I hadn't changed things. So Anabaptist Climate Collaborative is happy to be a co-sponsor of this event, and I'm glad that I can finally join you. Our purpose is to inspire and equip individuals, congregations, and organizations to seek climate justice through Anabaptist values, community, and faith. And we do this through three main strategies, with this being one of the strategies, empowering diverse voices. Climate change is a global problem, and so we need a global climate conversation, especially highlighting the voices of those on the front lines of the damage from the changing climate. Our greatest focus has been on developing emerging leaders, with young people like Sierra being part of some of our programs, working with them during college years, having a climate ambassador on North American Anabaptist related college campuses, and having internships. We also offer training and support for pastors and other congregational leaders. And finally, we build networks such as this partnership with Mennonite World Conference, and so happy to be here. And since I was given the opportunity to begin the discussion, I did want to also focus on this global aspect with COP28. It appears, I mean, you never know, but it appears like it's going to be very disappointing in terms of not confronting these issues. And I guess I especially wanted to ask Mariska, we do our small part in our own congregations and communities and with our own lives. You also referred a little bit to working at being in protests. And I was just curious. I know a little bit of the landscape here in the United States, where congregations can do some things, but we also have some limitations. And so we've done some protests as well. The recent one that perhaps was done at the same time in Amsterdam. And we've also actually had meetings with government leaders, organized that as well. I'm just curious about how that is working in Europe in terms of trying to, and in Holland specifically, moving government leaders towards greater action on a large scale.
I don't know if the conference is doing steps against the government. I don't know. I just know about what our congregation is doing, and we have a lot of discussions about what way will help to set aware the serious problems, and if the way Extinction Rebellion, for instance, is if we promote that, or that we stay aside and do everything in peace without any obstruction. Yeah. But maybe Joost can tell something about it.
Yeah, thank you, Mariska. Actually, in our congregation, we had a lot of discussion about this, and we decided we as a congregation as a whole, we do not promote sort of activist activities, but we have seen many individuals, including myself, participate in demonstration activities. So it is up to individuals, and we believe through the way we mainstream creation care in our congregation, we see that a lot of individuals take activist steps. But it is up to the individuals. We don't expect it, or we don't oblige it. Yeah. But we see an increasing movement, as Mariska, I think, also mentioned.
I see I'm still on here and I don't want to dominate, but just the follow-up would be between protests and doing nothing would be just meeting with leaders, going, showing up, at least here in the United States, showing up at zoning meetings where they're debating solar panels, or going to the offices of leaders and talking to them about this. Is that something that's done very much in your settings? And if it is, how has that gone?
Actually don't see it happening from the Mennonite community, and very little from the religious, the churches. Green churches is increasingly moving in that direction, but they haven't. It is still a bit, I would say, a bit sensitive. Many religious-based parties, actually, in the Netherlands are, I would say, rather right-wing, and do not prioritize the role, the need for change in lifestyles to combat climate change. It's not I do not see it as an important movement in the Netherlands. I hope it can become so.
Thank you. I see Jolene and Johannes have raised their hands.
Yes, I wanted to echo the comment from the folks in the Netherlands that since there is a strong movement in the country itself, we see, especially from our young folks, that they are connecting with the other environmental movements that are already happening in the country, that we don't try to initiate a separate movement from within the church to talk on the political level. There's more of a collaboration with the other initiatives that are already present. And also this, I'm originally from the States, as you can hear from my language, but from what I'm aware of or know of, this culture of going to visit your representatives and speak individually with them is not, it's not the way we do politics here. So maybe that's a level that's hard to connect with, but I would say, yeah, there's a lot of cooperation with the networks that are the movements that are already happening here.
Thank you, Jolene. I just want to highlight the link that Doug shared. Dutch Mennonite has written a series of blogs, really good blogs on COP28 if you want her perspective. Doug has shared the link. I invite now all the participants to prepare some questions. You can either write those questions in the chat and I can highlight them for you, or you can raise your hand and I will try to let you speak. So I don't know if you have a first question. Pollinator, please.
Thank you, David. I'm here from Colombia, Bogota, Colombia, and part of the Mennonite church here as well. And part of the Creation Care Task Force, actually, from Latin America. And I just wanted to ask, it's been so exciting to hear like your initiatives and the way you've carried these actions in the church, and also mainstreamed it in the way that you go about church as well. I just wanted to ask maybe each one of you very briefly, if you can, tell us, perhaps thinking of what moved the church, what one action that you saw was really effective in changing the way people understand creation care and start to implement it. So what moved in each case? What was the trigger of change? Thank you for sharing your experiences.
Okay, maybe I can start. I think one thing that moved our church is the recognition that our way of life in the Netherlands threatens so many lives elsewhere in the world. The fact that vulnerable groups in the world are really suffering as a direct result of our lifestyle. And that's also what we try to highlight when introducing the theme. We have also a group in Tanzania that we support by financing a Mennonite group, and we get a lot of messages also from them on droughts and floods and yields, and I think that is the main. So it is, you could say, solidarity with fellow citizens elsewhere in the world.
I would say from our German perspective that there's always been this issue on creation, a focus on creation care, but the urgency that really came where we said, okay, we need to focus on this, came from outside, came from the Fridays for Future movement here within Europe, where we noticed as a church, we need to be a part of this. We want to still be relevant in society. It's one of the main issues that we are dealing with. So we also, in our church setting, need to be thinking about what are we doing.
Thank you. Mariska, do you want to add something?
Well, we are, what is not a special trigger, but what helped us was to become a green church, and started with a green service where all came together, and we were celebrating creation and and tried to let us know every committee member their personal way they were thinking about all the problems, and it was so various, but it all was about what are we doing here and what can we do to help other people, fellow members in the world, to have a better life. So it started with the service and the green church sign.
Thank you. We have another question, a very good follow-up question about the unity that either of you sees in your church about these initiatives. How much unity does your church have? And is there usually consensus about them? And another good question, I think, is it a subset, a subgroup that leads these initiatives? And are they restrained by the most cautious ones? So yes, please jump in if you want to say something about that question of unity. in the face of these initiatives?
I can start again. Yeah, so in our church, I think, as I said, with a fellow member, we were really front runners, and we noticed at the onset, which was in about 2004 or 5, that a lot of fellow members said, "Oh, but we are not an activist church. It is nothing for us to deal with climate change, sustainability, biological products." So that's why we introduced it through this Earth Charter principles, which was rather neutral, and that started led to growing awareness. And I can really say that by now, the whole community is very aware and very much in favor of taking our own responsibility. And some even asked to come back to the previous question. Some even urged us as a board to tell everybody, go to Amsterdam, demonstrate. But we didn't do that because we felt this is individual choice. We don't do that. But it is now really thriving, yeah. Which is also a time the time aspect.
Yeah, I think for us, most of the people here in the congregation are thinking that we need to do something, but the consequences, what to do, are different. So maybe mostly younger peoples were more, more focused on actions and so on. And we have discussions about different things that we are doing, but I think there are not so much different opinions about that something needs to be done. Yeah. But the question is how much we should invest into it, I would say.
Just one small addition. We have in the Netherlands an important movement which is called Grandparents for the Climate. And I am one of them, and I am promoting this in my congregation. And I have many fellow elder people who are now active in this movement. I think you also have it in Germany. Yeah.
Don't know, but maybe we will look it up.
In our congregation, we still have some difference in very dedicated people to whom climate change is the most important topic, and others that are more focused on peace or other topics. Although it is a combination, because where climate problems are, it's hard to live in peace as well, and the other way around. Yeah, you see how it affects each other. But I'm one of the grandmothers as well. So yeah. And that's what I want to say, that we borrow the earth from our grandchildren. So it's not our earth. Yeah. But there are still differences in our community who are more and less active. And what Joost or what my colleagues in Germany said, the younger ones are more active and want to have action.
Thank you. Does anyone else have a question? In the meantime, I think I want to ask our speakers, where do you find hope? We've talked about COP28 being disappointing. Where do you find hope today? Is it in your actions? Is it in the way you see the society, the people around you, taking action, or do you have hope?
I think you always must have hope. Hope is the first thing that will encourage you to see the positive things of everything, and that will help you and will help the people around you to find solutions.
I think an important aspect is hearing the stories from around the world and connecting with people, hearing what's being done in the different areas, and also the resilience that you hear in the areas where people are affected more directly than here. So I think, as Mariska said, you need to have hope. There's no alternative, but connecting with people, with congregations around the world.
Yes, I think that's also what I meant by this resonance. Try to feel connected to each other, which gives you strength. You are not alone. You don't have this because a lot of people are afraid of the unpredictable changes that are coming. And when you feel connected, your fear will become less. And also we try to celebrate so now and then the nature can still be beautiful, of course, and look at the wonders of the earth.
Great, thank you. So we can continue for a few minutes for those who are available, but I want to acknowledge that we've even passed the hour mark for our webinar. And just want to say thank you all for joining. Thank you again to our presenters. I hope that we can find hope in our communities as well. And I invite you to pray also for the presenters that spoke and their churches, and also for the results of COP28. We can also have hope in some of that. But please do stay around if you have time, and we'll continue now with a question from Polana. How did people respond to the week of Lent actions using the bicycle and vegetarianism, eating less meat, etc.?
Oh, we had quite the interesting discussions about especially the food issue. So we had a church retreat together, also in the creation care focus, and we asked the kitchen to please prepare vegetarian meals, and one of them was actually a vegan meal that met with mixed responses. But in general, yeah, there is more openness, and the whole idea of riding your bicycle to work, that is also a challenge that we kind of give each other. You tell your stories, your experiences, and the next person says, well, I think I'll try that too. So it's a positive trying out.
Yeah, but because also some people are saying we are not eating so much meat, but at the barbecue event of our church, it's the only time maybe in a month or so that we are eating meat and we enjoy it, and so then it's also a good thing.
Mariska, I think you had similar initiatives. What was the response in your community?
I did not know about the Lent initiative, so that's new for me. Sorry, but I hear about from that's good. But what we did in the last few years was making doing that kind of things, but not a week long. It's good to hear. But yeah, vegetarian meals and bicycle tours and etc. So Yeah, that was very funny to do together.
Are there other questions? I have one for our friends in Germany. How did the link with the churches or the countries in the global south materialize? How concretely did you meet? Did you have people go there, etc.?
Yeah, we have our Mennonite Relief and Development organization here in Germany, das Mennonitische Hilfswerk. One of our congregational members was on the board there and strongly engaged in the projects with Ethiopia that we've been supporting over the years. So that was the connection there. And I also just spoke with the board and said, is there a project that would fit well with the idea of climate care, creation care? And they suggested this project with Benin. So it's a very small organization, and it's easy to make connections, we'll put it that way. Yeah, we don't have any direct connections with the congregation in Benin. It was, yeah, just use the projects, or I'm sorry, the pathways that were already available. Mm-hmm.
Doug, you can show maybe also the pictures now if you want. Ah. So this was the crew for running, so not only church members, also friends were taking part. We were also supported by a store with some food and some water. This was also great. And in the next picture, I think we can see then in Benin. Yeah.
The well, yeah, the well with the water supplies.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Just these two pictures to illustrate this.
Thank you. Nice to share those. Do we have one more question maybe or comment? While we're waiting, I just want to share that there are eco-church programs in other countries. I know there is one in the United Kingdom that is very strong, and there are some in France and in Switzerland, and I know in Switzerland some Mennonites have joined or are considering joining soon, and there should be one in Portugal soon as well. So look out for those, and if you come from another country and would be interested in resources on how to start one, I can put you in contact with some people that are in charge of the ones in Europe. And of course, you can contact Joost and Mariska. So do we have another comment or question from the participants?
One comment on the youth. I hear that there are young people taking action, participating. I think we should also recognize that, at least in the Netherlands, it is becoming increasingly clear that a lot of young people are also simply depressed, and they are very well. It's really becoming an issue that young people do not have well, great expectations of their future, well, as a church, we are also trying to address that problem by particularly having workshops or meetings for young students in Wageningen. We have a university here, and also among students there seems to be really an increasing number that are depressed and that don't see a bright future anymore. So I think that could also be a role of churches to reach out to that generation and give them hope. And I want to I put in the links this booklet from Hartmut Rosa on democracy and religion. He very I found it very interesting because he tries to make a link between the fact that a lot of young people are not having hope and the fact that so few people are still believing in God. And this is just missing. There's a dimension missing. And he says he sees that religion should play a more strong role in giving people hope. And
that's interesting. The role of faith has been increasingly recognized. I work for Rosa, a Christian organization that's more working with biodiversity, and at the IUCN, the International Union for Conservation of Nature, faith has been recognized as playing a big part a long time ago. And I know at COP28, for the first time, there was a faith pavilion, which also was a new level of engagement for faith communities. So I think with these words, again, thank you very much to all 4 of you for presenting and sharing your stories. And I have now the charge of closing this webinar. Thank you so much for joining. It was very nice to share and hear from one another. And I hope you can find hope in your context, your community, and take action to care for creation and face the crisis, the ecological crisis that we have today. We can follow discussion on Discord, I think. But at the moment, I wish you a good rest of the day wherever you are. And thanks again for joining us. Bye-bye.